where's the competition? Bring on the competition. We need some competition. Y'all ain't no competition. Yo, where's the competition? Bring on the competition. We need some competition. Y'all ain't no competition. It's time to ball. Yeah, shawty, time to brawl. Cause see, we bout to stomp y'all from the jump raw. Me worried not at all. Your team is gonna fall. Hope you learn something from it, cause we schooling all of y'all. Putting you to shame. Don't hate you even came. Bringing the pain to anybody coming through the lane.
Greg Silva here. Welcome to another session of United Professionals and Cornerman Training or Teaching Tips. Today I had a good opportunity, or this week I had a good opportunity to watch several classes at different schools, either via Skype or I got on the school's webcams. And I was taking notes, and what I started noticing on my notes was the word too, T-O-O. The classes were too much of this or too much of that, or the instructor was too much of this or too much of that. So I took some of the notes down and I thought I would share because I think these are really great ideas. One is too loud. I'm not talking about the students being too loud. I'm talking about the instructors being too loud. Yelling so loud that it wasn't like he was talking to the students or even to the parents behind the students, but he was talking to the wall way beyond those students and parents. So you want to be loud enough for everyone to hear, but you don't want to be screaming at your students. You want to be talking to your students. Now, if you're in a place like in our Boca school, for example, the acoustics aren't really great in that school, so the instructor has a microphone on. This way he can talk in a normal voice. It's amplified so it's loud, but it's not blaring in the school. So watch your classes, watch your instructors, make sure they're not too loud. Of course, on the other hand, you want to make sure they're too soft. You don't want to see like, they don't really have control of the floor. They're almost afraid what to say. So make sure the volume of the voice is adjusted. Make sure you don't spend too much time on pre-framing. Now, the pre-frame is to get the kids excited that they came this day. I kind of relate it to watching a TV show and you're watching the first 35, 40 seconds. And it's getting you really, really excited about the show, and then a commercial comes on. Well, the pre-frame is getting the kids excited. But if the pre-frame is too long, the kids are standing waiting. Okay, are we going to do this or are we going to just talk about this? So make sure your pre-frame gets them excited, but it's not too much. Make sure you don't have too many creeds. I saw a couple of schools, they did not only the student creed, they did the end of the class creed at the beginning of the class. They did some positive affirmations. They did the Kempo creed or a Taekwondo creed. And I'm just watching, I go, that's a lot of affirmations. Let's do it, not just talk about it. So we want to make sure that the creeds are there, because the creeds are really important for teaching aids. They're really good for like performance and discipline aids. So it's important that the students say the creed and they live by the creed, but we don't want to stretch it too long where it's affirmation after affirmation after affirmation. Also want to make sure that there's not too many kids in class. I saw one class this week that had 50 kids. Now 50 kids is a lot on the floor, especially if you just have one instructor. The good breakdown is 24 kids. I like maximum for class. And if you want to find out why, read the book David and Goliath, and it talks about small classrooms versus big classrooms. A lot of times we think a small classroom is more important because the kids get more attention, but in a small classroom, kids that are excellent kind of stick out and they feel alone, and some kid are maybe a little lagging behind in his physical talents, he stands out too much. So a good mix is 24. After that, they start losing the special feeling in the class. In other words, even if I'm a good student, there's so many of the good students in the class that I lose that special feeling. So 24 is max, but even with 24, you want 2 or 3 assistants. I would like to have an instructor and assistant all the time on the floor, and then SWAT members or storm members at least 8 to 1. 10 to 1 stretching it, and with little dragons, you may want it down to even 4 to 1. So kids classes, 8 to 1, that's really good. Little dragons, 4 to 1. So if you have 12 kids, now you have the instructor, you have the assistant, and you have 1 SWAT member, you've got the class covered. Everyone's getting plenty of attention. You want to make sure there's not too many questions. If you ask question after question after question, I know questions are important to keep people engaged, but after a while the kids start losing focus and they ask like crazy questions that come up with crazy answers. I was telling Mark at the school here in Mesa, I said one time I was asking so many questions and someone brought my lunch in, kid raised his hand and go, do you have a question? Goes, yeah, could I have half your sandwich? I go, okay, I'm way beyond too many questions. So make sure we keep the kids engaged, but don't ask too many questions. You can get some really crazy ones and you start losing control of your class. Make sure your warm-up isn't too long. I was watching one class, and by the time they got to the actual punching, blocking, kicking curriculum of the class, and this was a 45-minute class, a half hour went already. So it was a half hour on the creeds and the warm-up. That's too long on a warm-up. A warm-up should be 25% max of the class. 20% is more like it. So in a 45-minute class, 8 minutes of warm-up is pretty much about right. When you go to 15, 20 minutes, a half hour, the majority of your class is warm-ups. Now, parents know the importance of warm-ups. They want their kids to be in good shape. They want to make sure they're free of injury. They want to make sure they're flexible and become good kickers. But they really don't want to spend $200 for you to count numbers for push-ups and sit-ups. So make sure the kids are learning something. You want to especially get to their curriculum sooner. Now, I've been to too many schools pretending I'm a parent and listening to other parents on the sidelines and go, I'm paying a lot of money for this class, and the only thing they're really doing is exercise. He can do that in the park for free. And the parents aren't too far off on that. So make sure your warm-ups don't go too long. Make sure there's not too many mistakes. I was watching a class, and the instructor said right leg back, and 10 kids had the left leg back, the other kids had the right leg back, and this was one of those real big classes. The instructor wasn't getting around, and some of these kids were getting away with stuff on the back of the room. I said, well, that's okay. It doesn't really matter if they're kicking with the right leg or the left leg. At least they're still kicking, but it's not still kicking to the parents. When the parents see their child doing something wrong and the instructor's not paying attention, then they start thinking the class is too big, the instructor can't handle a class like that, and that's when you get comments from the parents. And a lot of times we try to negate those comments. The parent goes, well, it's too big. The class is too big, and my kid's not getting enough attention, and you're thinking, no, I'm a good instructor. I can handle this. But the parents must have seen something happen during the class. That's what brought it up and gave them the courage to come up and talk to you. So make sure you have a critical eye when you're watching everyone in class. Everyone's doing it the exact same way. And if yours are stuck, in other words, someone called in sick and maybe now you are 25-1, it's you and 25 kids. If you have to make a correction, I call it reset. Some kids have the left leg back. Okay, let's reset. Everyone back into their natural stance. Okay, when I say go, everyone take their right leg, step back, and everyone do it together and make the corrections that way. Too many missed opportunities for life skills. When you're doing class, I know we try to get your curriculum down, but a lot of times we just miss opportunities for life skills. If we're doing a horse stance or we're doing star block, and kids are getting a little tired, but I've got some child over there who's in a great horse stance, that's an opportunity to really get into the importance of having perseverance, not giving up, self-discipline. Here's someone giving that example. I got to make sure I highlight that student. If I have a class and everyone's enthusiastic, I go, man, this class is rocking. Well, before I go on to the next thing, I may stop and just say, guys, I just want to congratulate you on your energy and enthusiasm. That type of energy is what's needed to overcome obstacles. That's the type of energy that future black belts use. Congratulations. So make sure we're not so much in a rush to get through class that we miss too many opportunities to do life skills. Last one, I've got this one from Paul Garcia. I thought it was really cool. Too many assistants doing too little. In other words, sometimes you have so many assistants in class that some of the assistants are just standing around. As Paul Garcia says, they look like prison guards. And they do, because everyone's kind of standing around watching the kids, and they got their arms folded, but they're not doing anything. If you have people on the floor being assistants, make sure they're assisting you. Now, I use the word assisting you. They're not teaching class. You're teaching class, but they're going to catch that person with the right foot back instead of the left foot back, things like that. They're going to make those type of minor corrections. So we want to make sure we're not too loud. We want to make sure we don't pre-frame too much. We want to make sure we don't have too many student creeds. We don't want to have too many students per class or per instructor. In Florida, I did have classes with 80 students, but I had 4 main instructors on the floor, and we had 4 groups of 20. So it's still under that magic number of 24 that I was mentioning you. Make sure you don't have too many assistants doing too little. Make sure you don't spend too long on your warm-ups. Make sure you don't ask too many questions. Make sure there aren't too many mistakes going on in class without you having that critical eye and catching them, and making sure the majority of students, if not all the students, are doing the move correctly, at least with the right foot back. And make sure you don't miss too many opportunities to bring out the importance of life skills. So that's our too much talk for today. And take some notes. These are great things to pass on to instructors. I'm sure now that you brought this to people's attention, you're probably going to see some of these things happen in class. So hopefully your classes get better and better by the end of next week. Greg Silva, have a great weekend.